video.
Hello, everybody. I hope you all can hear us loud and clear. We are live, and welcome to this amazing conversation today. We are going to be having a conversation around feeling unheard in your relationship. What do you do? What do you do? Feeling unheard in your relationship. What do you do? So please, if you're joining us live, can you let us know where you're watching from? Just put it on the chat. Let us know where you're watching from. It'll be great to know those that are in the room with us, just to be sure that we are here, ready, eager to have this conversation. And today we have a guest. But before I bring her over, let me first of all introduce myself. My name is Amara.
And my name is Gospel.
And together we co-steward on Relationship Builders Forum. And this is a forum where we talk about everything about love, about sex, about relationship. And we believe in intentional relationships. So relationships should be tended. Relationships should be looked after. And then your relationship would definitely blossom.
Speaking about having an intentional relationship, the focus of most people when they go into marriage is to enjoy their relationship. That talks about you having the character, the competence, and the commitment to have the best of relationship. And sometimes it doesn't happen. And one of the questions is why? And one of the reasons for this is that one of the spouses may feel she or he is not heard.
Yeah.
Sometimes they don't even know how to approach it. So we felt that this is a good conversation to have because we're getting calls from people on different issues around, I want to speak, but I don't know how to air my views.
Yeah.
I want to be heard, but he or she is not listening. Maybe he's listening, he's not hearing my heart.
Yep.
You can't feel the passion and all of those. And we felt, wow, this is a good conversation to have. It's not about us telling you things.
Yep.
It's not about our guests talking to you. It's about us having a conversation. And I would say to you, if you know someone who would need this kind of conversation, you can reach out to them, share the link with them, and let them join in the conversation.
Yes, amazing. And please, if you're joining us for the first time, if this is your first time actually coming on this platform, we would want to bid you a warm welcome and kindly hit the subscribe button, turn on the notification bell so you know when we put content out. To all our returning subscribers, we love you. Thank you for always chiming into this conversation. So today, without further ado, I want to make welcome our guests today. She is an amazing woman. She is a woman who believes in people being and putting forward their authentic self. Now, I might not do justice to introducing this phenomenal woman, the phenomenal lady, and she's another person she believes in intentional relationships. So I would just bring her up now, and I'm sure she is going to do justice to introducing herself. So now, please join me, make welcome Dr. Ezinne Okwulehie. So welcome. It's amazing to have you here.
Hello. Thank you so much, Amara and Gospel, my favorite people in the world. Thank you so much for having me again on my third missionary journey.
Yeah, I guess.
Thank you so much.
Yes. So for our viewers, do you want to introduce yourself to them? Because they would want to get to know who we have here on our platform, what you do, basically just a few tips about who you are so they know who they are speaking with or who is talking to them.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon to everyone who has tuned in for this wonderful time this afternoon. Thank you for committing to growth in your marriage and your relationship. My name is Ezinne Okwulehie, or professionally Dr. Ezinne Okwulehie. I am an optometrist by profession, but by passion, I am also known as the mind reformer. Basically, I work with people's minds, help them see better, a higher dimension of themselves. And I believe that everyone has a seed of greatness in them. And my message, my goal, my passion is to help people unleash their greatness one version at a time, and for other people to help them scale the greatness that they've already unleashed. So if I meet you, I don't want to meet you twice without you exhibiting a higher level of your greatness. That's in a nutshell what I do. So just call me the greatness excavator.
Oh,
Wow,
wow.
that's great. So obviously, you're going to help anyone who is married to get to the greatness of their marriage,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
if I put it that way. Thank you so
Yeah.
much for all you do and for helping people discover themselves and their innate ability and all of those. Do you want to start the conversation or?
Yes, we could start because today, like we said, we want to talk about, are you feeling unheard in your relationship? What do you do? Okay, so but before we go into, the solution, what do you do? What are the signs that, people feel unheard in their relationship?
Yeah.
How would you identify, I'm in a relationship, how would I know that I feel unheard? Somebody might say, well, I know I feel unheard because I'm speaking and no one is listening. But then, you might not know something like a relationship.
Sorry.
Everything okay? Okay.
Sorry
Some
about
people might be in a relationship and they
Okay.
feel that, they're unheard in that relationship. How can what are the signs, especially for single people, how would you identify that you are unheard?
Yeah, to add to that before she comes in, I think some people might also think that they have a problem. So obviously, if they're not speaking up, if something is not happening the way they want, they might think it is their problem.
Yeah.
So that's why it's good for them to know that there are signs that you're unheard and you need to do something about it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Ezinne, do you want to
jump
talk
right
about
in?
that if you don't mind?
I think I like where Amara picked it up from. Like, so what are the signs that you're being unheard in a relationship? And I think that one of the most frustrating things that can happen to any individual in any relationship is to be in the relationship and still feel like you're not in the relationship. So it kind of gives you this, it's like an irony. You're in a relationship and yet you feel like you're alone. I mean, how is it that you're with somebody and you still feel most of the time that you're alone? And talking from experience, because I have also experienced this, especially in the early part of my marriage, I feel like the number one pointer to the fact that you're not being heard in the relationship is frustration. Is frustration, and then you're taking it out on everyone and everyone else. At the office, you're frustrated. At the home front, you're frustrated. You go to the market, you're frustrated, and that's because you're not being heard. So it looks as if you're just talking to a brick wall. And if you're talking to a brick wall, I mean, you'll just be frustrated. And that is why we have a lot of people who say, oh, my wife or my spouse is snapping at me. Could you take a step back and wonder why exactly is this person snapping? It's because the person feels unheard. So I just feel like the number one pointer to somebody that you're not being heard in a relationship is frustration. And I think that is even one of the best pointers, because the worst, as it were, is at the other end of the spectrum is numbness, where you don't feel anything anymore. So you don't feel the need to talk. Since, I've been talking for all that long and it has done nothing. And I feel like I'd rather have a spouse. Okay, I don't want to even have a spouse that is frustrated or numb. But if your spouse is frustrated, it means that the person even still has hope and is talking about it. Why are you doing this? But when the person becomes numb, one of two things has happened. Is either the person has given up on the relationship or the person has sought succor somewhere else. Regardless of these eventualities, the marriage is headed for the rocks once it gets here. So I just feel like the two major pointers, to a relationship where one party is feeling unheard is number one, frustration, and number two, numbness. Of course, in between these two are many other ones, or a few other ones, which I would not want to dive into right now.
Yeah, very good point you've raised there. Issues around feeling frustrated because someone doesn't listen to you or your views do not even count. But don't you think sometimes people feel frustrated, not necessarily because the other party is not listening, maybe because they have an unrealistic expectation from their spouse, which the person is not meeting. For instance, if my wife is telling me, I need a car, I need a car, and
Yeah.
I am saying, you don't really need a car. What you need is to change your job and work. Maybe what you need is to upskill yourself, not a car. And she's pushing for that. And I feel this is not an expectation that I need to help her meet. In that sense, she's frustrated. Don't you think it could be, I'm just looking at it from another point of view,
Yeah.
maybe an issue of unrealistic expectations?
Yeah, yeah. I thank you for really pointing that out because that's so important, and that's why marriage is for mature individuals. But unfortunately, or fortunately, a lot of us come into marriage without knowing a lot. And like I've said, I think on this program again, I still strongly believe that the foundation for a very strong, healthy, godly marriage is communication, right? So, what are you communicating? How are you communicating it? Where are you communicating and when are you communicating? These factors all come to play in determining if the reason why you're frustrated is a valid point or an invalid point. And I mean, if you're communicating right, okay, I need the car, and both of you, it's not me against you. So we need a car, right? Not necessarily I need a car. You may have a car, but we still need, because if I get a car, it's going to, like, I remember when I got married newly, we just had one car. And my husband now later got me a car for my birthday because of the way men are. I was even thinking, oh, because he loves me so much and, he just wants to. No, he loves me. But I later discovered that the primary reason why he got me that car was for we, not for him. He didn't want all this quarrel. Where are you now? I've been waiting here since. Why have you not come? So it was more, it was not more, it was not necessarily about, oh, he loves me so much. No. The way men always think, how do I solve this problem? Okay, I'll get a car. So, madam, take your car. So what am I saying? Do you get? So I mean, it was maturity. Like I know that, okay, he got me this because we needed to solve a problem as a couple and we could afford it as at the time. And then he said, okay, get this. That way, I don't have to, you don't have to wait for me. We don't have to quarrel over waiting time, and all that. And that one was solved. So the first question to say is, why am I frustrated? Is it valid? Right? Is it tangible? Is it something that we could, revisit? So if it has to do with a car, okay, I'm frustrated, honey. Why? You can even actually air your opinion. I'm frustrated. Okay, why? If you have a healthy communication channel, at the end of that discussion, both of you will come to agreement and say there is really no need to be frustrated. And then everywhere is dry. Everybody's happy. But where there is no healthy communication channel, is either one person goes on, continues to be frustrated for an invalid reason, or another person goes off on the other person, and then it just becomes, how these things escalate. It becomes something. Because I mean, every one of us has become frustrated for something that was not necessary. I mean, if we look back to all the things we quarreled about, sometimes I'm wondering, were you okay? Why were you quarreling? Why did you quarrel? Like, I get disappointed. I'm like, it's like I should go back and flog myself. Why were you quarreling? So, I mean, we are growing. So we should give ourselves room for that, basically.
Okay. Now, please, let's not get into the solutions because we're already now beginning to slowly get into the solutions. I want to first of all unpack. Now, the frustration that you touched on, there's something that I thought might be important for me to add to this because a lot of times when you find somebody in a relationship is being frustrated, it could be as a result of the feeling of being excluded. So there are key decisions to be made. And my opinion is not considered in that, you kind of feel very frustrated about it. And then you might want to take it out on, whoever is there to sort of take the blow. And I think it's kind of critical because sometimes in a relationship, and you call it a marital relationship, how do you want to go on a journey with someone and then you intend to exclude that person on key decisions within the marriage?
Yeah, I think talking about exclusion in the marriage, I think sometimes it's not like the person intentionally decide to exclude this person. I think sometimes it's an issue of unconscious programming where culturally you've been programmed to think that the suggestions or the view of the opposite sex does not really count that much because if you think as a man, you are the head, you are the one that will call the shots, and you think she doesn't really have so much to impute to make, then you might unconsciously exclude her. Even when she tells you, okay, can we do it this way? Oh, it's not a woman talking. Some people think that way because of culture, because of religious orientation, which we know is not the right, because obviously marriage is a thing of you and I coming together to make it work. And if I ask a question based on that. I don't know if you
Yeah,
want
go on.
ask a question based on that. Do you think that if someone doesn't have the freedom or confidence to share his or her views in a marital relationship, do you think that could be a sign that the person is not heard, the person's voice is not recognized?
Yeah, thank you so much, Gospel. That's a red flag, a very big red flag, and I think it stems and points to a very faulty foundation, negative ideologies, cultural conditioning, and borrowed paradigms that are no longer effective and archaic and should be tossed off the window. So a lot of people, that's why I really feel like we should put a lot of work into singles, because somehow it looks like when people get married, it becomes like it's easier, when you have the right ideology single, you get somebody with like-minded ideologies and you get married. We're not saying it's going to be a smooth boat ride, but there are some issues that would not come up at all. But when you have singles that are coming with the borrowed paradigms of their parents, their culture into marriage, and saying that only a man's idea matters, the first thing, first of all, is that we are a team. Once you catch a revelation of the fact that marriage, we are a team, we are on the same team. It is we against the world, not we against ourselves. We are not competing here. And that everybody has something unique to bring to the table. And then you see your wife or your spouse as God's given gift to you to make the journey of life easier. Once you have that revelation, you wouldn't joke with the information or the wisdom that comes from your spouse. But whereas you think that you know it all, it's a problem. Because even if you were not married, you don't have all the wisdom available to run your life on your own. That's why you go to school. That's why you get coaches. That's why you have a teacher. That's why you have friends. And then if you are that kind of person who doesn't take advice from anybody, it won't be too long before you hit the rocks. So I think we should go back to, some the foundational truths that we are a team. We are a team. And as such, I should listen and hear, my spouse, and, apply whatever that spouse has told me, and not just toss it aside and say, what are you saying? I discovered that some men over time learn their lessons when their wife tell them one thing and the wife says, okay, no problem. And then she keeps quiet and it goes, the other way. And then he just comes back, tails tucked in between the legs and all that. And the wife was like, hmm? Some wives will say, I told you so. Why? Some wives will just be like, they just behave like, see, they don't know. They tried 1, 2, 3 times and then I'm like, no, I need to listen to this woman more. There's something this woman usually tells me. So over time, they grow into it. But sadly, some men never. They rather feel in fact, if the entire world is screaming, this thing your wife is telling you is the truth, just because it came from a woman, they are not willing to take it. And that's such a low way to live, really. So if there's anybody on this call, who has borrowed this kind of paradigm, I just want you to, imbibe a new paradigm. And it's simple. It's just one sentence. We are a team and everybody has something to offer and bring to the table, regardless of their background, their educational qualifications, wherever they're coming from. Everybody has something to offer. That's my take.
Thank you so much for that. I also want to add to, I don't want to talk more on what you've said already. I want to add that every woman, because most times women are at the receiving end, every woman should also believe in herself that she has something to offer. So when your husband is asking you, what do you think?
Yeah.
Don't say whatever you decide is okay. No,
Exactly.
you have an opinion. Share
Exactly.
your view and let it count. Okay, even if you're not as exposed as he is, there are issues that you have emotional intelligence, superior arguments to make the family work well as a team, like you said. It's a teamwork.
Yeah.
And don't go on.
Okay, sorry, you just said something that is so profound, because I've discovered that some men actually, when they try the first time and they tell the wife, like, women, how do I put it? Because of the way we are designed, some women, not all women. So attention span, a man wants to talk about something and say, please, can you give me a minute? Can we just talk about this? And can you tell me your view? And she's like, please, and the man is like, I'm trying to get and say, just do, just do, just do. He tries the second time. You always get it, just do. He tries the third time. You always get it, just do. And at some point, he just assumes that there's really no need coming to ask you since you will tell him just do. So I feel like we should intentionally give attention to whatever our spouse, especially talking to women now, our husbands are saying, and then give eye contact, say what you think, and then you can encourage him that way to, toe on that line.
Yeah. Absolutely. I think a lot of what you have said also stems from the feeling that some women have got in terms of the lack of confidence.
Yeah.
So and maybe in
right?
themselves as a person, it has nothing to do with the relationship. And sometimes the relationship has a way of exposing these weaknesses, and you don't have confidence in who you are. And you step into a relationship and they ask you, what do you think about this? Oh, I don't even have an opinion. So you're not confident enough to put your opinion through,
Yeah.
and maybe you're a woman on this call, at some point, even in my journey as a woman, at some point I've as well struggled with my self-confidence. And maybe this is a point where you have to think about, how can I add value? How can I revive my confidence in myself? Because a lot of times there are things that must have weighed or that must have chipped away the self-confidence of a woman. And I think it's really, really important, because if you're in a relationship with someone who doesn't have a healthy self-esteem, that in itself could be a problem, because that person kind of shies away because doesn't want more exposure in that sense. And you now get to a point where you feel, oh, I'm ignored.
Yeah.
I'm not, nobody seeks my opinion anymore. So
I also want to add that if, as a husband, even as a wife, you realize that your spouse has issues with self-confidence, you don't have to damage it the more.
Thank you.
Just give the person the opportunity to have a view, even if the person doesn't want to, and you feel the view doesn't really make sense the way you think it should. Take it on board, encourage the person. Our responsibilities include to build each other up, and that involves building our confidence. If you've been married to someone for, let's say, 5 years, and the person is not growing in confidence, then there is something you're not doing right. It is your responsibility to help build the person up.
And I like the way the conversation is just spiraling into different aspects, and while you were talking, gospel, what I just heard is, I'm not the same person that got married 10 years ago. So, and I did not become another person by happenstance. It was an intentional effort of systematic, methodical growth, personal growth. So usually what happens in some marriages is that one person is growing and another person is just left stagnant. When that happens, you guys will start having a dichotomy of interest, of ideas, of solutions, of paradigms, of perspective. And what the enemy does is that usually he now provides for either, especially if there's already an underlying problem in the marriage, now provides for another person, somebody at that level of intellectual competence and capacity. And then it will start innocently like this. When I want to talk intelligent things, I talk to this colleague at office. And then from there, while you are from intellectual conversations, it goes to emotional conversations, and then finally lands where we don't want to land. So I just feel that it is the responsibility of every individual to invest in your personal growth, whether you're single or married. Now, when you're married, it is more of your responsibility and the responsibility of your spouse to encourage you, to grow. Because I don't want to grow and then I look beside me and I can't find my spouse. So I want to grow, and then when I look beside me, I can find my spouse. The conversations we had 10 years ago, I should be able to have weightier conversations with the same person in the next 10 years. I think that's what makes for a beautiful relationship, part of a beautiful relationship where all parties are growing, in their different endeavors, and they can, talk about things intelligently and appreciate the wisdom coming out of each person. So I just think we need to invest more in our personal growth.
Yeah,
Thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. I just want to highlight that all the things you've said. So thank you so much. I think the first thing she talked about is the signs that you feel unheard. The first thing was frustration, and then she went on to talk about numbness. And I think she touched also on poor communication while she was talking. She talked about poor communication. We also looked at lack of confidence was another thing. So I don't know. I mean, you've shared all of these things, but do you have any other signs that you might want to touch on? So whilst you're thinking on that, I would want to make welcome those who have just joined us online. I want to thank you so much. I can see you all on the chat, Foundation for Family Affairs, Telma, Aidia, and so many of you there. So thank you all for always chiming in. Please, if you've got contributions to make to this conversation, please feel free to pop it on the chat. And maybe you might have some questions as well as the conversation is ongoing. Please feel free to put it on the chat as well.
Yeah. I want to ask you a question while you're thinking about other signs. Is it possible to feel unheard and at the same time have emotional connection with your spouse? The sign itself tells a lot.
I'm sure you heard my reaction before my reaction.
Exactly.
Personally, I don't think it's possible. Like for a woman, I'm talking from a woman's point of view. Like, how do I feel unheard and I'm emotionally connected to the basis for emotional connection, number one, is communication. And if I'm not being heard, it means I'm not communicating. And if I'm not communicating, it means that there's a break in our emotional connection. So there is no way I'll be emotionally connected to you if I'm being unheard, really. I just think it's impossible.
Yeah.
Except somebody's lying somewhere.
From a man's point of view,
yes,
sometimes we tend to ignore some of the things. We tend to assume that, okay, we've talked about it.
It's over.
It's over. Let's carry on. You'll be surprised.
You guys fragment things.
Yes, you'll be surprised.
Are you not shocked? Are you not shocked?
It shocked me.
But that is true, because sometimes when the issue comes up again, you're wondering, I thought we dealt with this last week. Why are you raising it again? We might not say it, but that's what pops in our head. Why are you raising it? We've dealt with it. We are good. Let's move on. But a woman wants us to take time, talk about the issue,
unpack it,
deal with it,
yes,
and she wants to see evidence that she's not going to repeat itself. And you will be surprised that for us, because we've dealt with the issue, don't remember it again, and you might be saying, I feel unheard. Okay, don't worry. Sorry about that. I'll try my best. The next thing, the man is asking you to come to the other room. I don't want to hear it. Yes, and feeling that some people think.
I think it's the fact that men tend to compartmentalize things. So women, I mean, everything is like
it's connected.
Exactly,
it's everything is connected. You can't touch this and leave this. No, it's a whole package. It's a whole package. And just to say, gospel, when we talk about being unheard, it's not a one-time thing. In fact, you can't say that you spoke to your husband about an issue and after that one issue you feel unheard. That would be unfair. When we are saying I feel unheard in my relationship, is that 1 year ago, I told you I don't like being talked to this way. 3 months later, I am saying the same thing. 6 months later, I am saying the same thing. 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, and a lot of people, not just spouses, excuse themselves with a very shallow reasoning. I'm sorry to say if this comes across as insulting, but that's not my intention. But where you say, I am this way, what's the meaning of I am this way? That's how I am. It doesn't make any sense to me. And that's why I talked about personal growth. You should be willing to change. So if I say, I don't like the way you talk to me this way, or I don't like that you treat me this way, you should be able to put in the effort. I know you grew up in a dysfunctional home. I know that you didn't have, your conditioning was not the most favorable. But if I see that you're putting in the work, then I feel that I'm heard. That I'm heard does not mean you're perfect. That I'm heard means that you're not the same person that I spoke to the very first time I raised this issue. It doesn't mean that the issue has been completely erased. It just means that there is progress. Then I feel heard. So when we are saying I feel heard, it's not like I'm not looking for a perfect spouse. I am looking for a spouse that is growing, that is not doing the same things over and over again. And that's where frustration comes in. I don't think any spouse will be, I mean, it's just like a man, you get married to a man who is not naturally romantic, or and then you know that your wife is romantic. It's not in your DNA to be romantic. When I see that you went out, maybe called my friend, and my friend told me your husband called me, or maybe later, to ask me for your size of lingerie. And I know that in this world is that is like an anomaly just for doing that. Even if you finally did not get me the lingerie, and I'll be like, I didn't see any lingerie. Oh. He didn't finally bring it. And she'll say, maybe he didn't call back again. But that you made that effort, it means that very soon you actually get it. And I will be touched that you actually made the effort. So have I gotten to where I want you to get to? No. Do I feel unheard? No. Do I feel heard? Yes. Is there perfection? No. Is there progress? Yes. So I hope
I want to ask you a question on that. I want to speak for the men. So the question now is, why is it that sometimes women speak in parables? What I mean is, you want us to decode what you're saying, but you're not saying it straight. Sometimes you're saying something and you're saying you're not listening to me, but I've heard the words you've said, and you want me to interpret the word beyond the words. Do you get my point?
I do.
In terms of being sensitive enough to know what this woman is saying, because this is one of the reasons some women feel unheard.
Yeah.
If this person is saying to you that I don't feel loved, for you, I don't feel loved may mean, oh, I need to buy her things.
Yeah.
I need to give her money. But there's something else she's saying, and a man who understands the wife should be able to read in between lines and go beyond the words and see the heart. So why is it that you guys don't say things the way we tend to understand it?
Because
You can help us.
Someone just said on the chat, see how I'm looking at you. Huh. You know these men. Sometimes it's not like they don't know. You know, you're saying something to them and they are waiting for you to excavate it, x-ray it, and
Exactly.
you get it. You get what I'm saying.
You
That's
get
why,
it.
why don't you just
You get it. And if you don't get it, don't forget about it.
Forget it.
Don't.
You've not answered my question. I
will. Okay. The truth is, putting it out there in black and white, I will come from two angles. It takes away, it takes away the essence of life. Let's put it that way. I know I'm being dramatic here, but it just takes away the beauty. Then how then do I know that you know me? But I'm growing. I used to be like that, but now I've changed. I say what I want, when I want it, how I want it. That's another level of maturity, because as you go in marriage, you now discover that your husband is not the Holy Spirit, neither is he a mind reader, a psychic, neither, those kind of things. So you have to now start saying, this is what I want. And like for the man, and the woman is saying, I don't feel love. Can you now follow up with a question? And we want, a woman doesn't just want things to be mechanical. So not I don't feel love. No, you said, really? We want to know, even if like it's touching you, you mean it, and then you're looking at her and said, can you please tell me how you want to be loved? Hey, she will start talking. Not, okay, how do you want to be loved now?
Yeah.
Do you understand? So I feel like it's in the way, we communicate these things. And then can you teach me how do you want to be loved? How do you want to be loved? And then you look at things, what excites her. Be observant. I know that you guys have too much going on at the office to come back and start taking another project topic called your wife, to be seeing all her nuances, idiosyncrasies, and just trying to find out, oh, did she smile here? But, you can just take in those little details, the little things that make her happy, and just note it down. The truth is that women prefer, and that's the way when you give a man a gift and a woman a gift, a woman will like that, you wrapped that gift, put it in a beautiful paper bag, now still put it in a box with a ribbon. A man is like, please just give me the gifts. Open it, just give it to me. So we like the drama. We like the we like the ribbon unfolding, and that's like a quest. It means that you actually did some work to know how I want to be loved. But if a woman on this call, I know I'm saying this, but it doesn't work that way. Can you be intentional with what you want and be vocal about it and be clear in clear terms? This is the way I want to be loved. This is how I like to be loved. So that your spouse wouldn't say, I didn't really know, or I misunderstood. No, now you know. This is how I want to do. This kind of things I like. I like this brand of chocolate. I like this color of lingerie. I like to be touched here. I like kind words. My love language is this. You know, that kind of thing. So don't make your husband another Holy Spirit, basically.
Yeah, I think it's down to effective
Communication, yeah.
And we need to learn each
To
other.
listen as well.
Yeah, learn your spouse
Yeah.
and listen. You know, we live in a, like I say, digital world now.
Yeah.
Sometimes this has happened to me before, where my wife was saying something to me. I said yes, yes. Maybe because I was watching a game, I wasn't paying attention. And at the end of the day, she reminded me of what she said. I said, you never said that to me, because I wasn't listening. So I think it's good to pay attention. It's good to know when to communicate and how to communicate. And it's not just for the men. Sometimes the men feel unheard because you've been saying something to a woman over time, and you've been saying, I don't like this, I don't like this. We might not express it the same way like women do, but we know we are not being heard. For instance, a man is saying to you, I don't like the way you talk to me. You're disrespectful to me. And you keep going about it the same way over and over again. At a point, he will strategize. He will try to protect himself and leave you the way you are. And he might not feel that connection the way he wants to feel connected to you as the wife. So it's not just like they're saying the women are the ones who feel unheard. The men too feel unheard sometimes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think you've said quite a lot of things, but just listening to what you were saying about, you know, people taking responsibility for their growth and encouraging each other to grow. There's been instances where people feel unheard because they feel that my passion is not tended to. So, for example, and when I talk about passion, I'm not talking about, you know, maybe, you know, physical or, you know, passion in that sense, but in sense of your career or what you really want to achieve. And you feel that, you know, everything is always about the other person, never about me. And it gets to a point where, you know, this also would begin to weigh into that person's self-confidence, and they feel, oh, he doesn't even care, or she doesn't even care about, you know, seeing me progress or seeing, you know, her progress in that way. So what's your take on that?
Okay, like I said, this also dates back to the beginning, you know, the kind of spouse that you married, and what I said earlier also, and I'll say it a couple of times before this call, you know, before we end this call. We are a team. We are a team. Like, I can't even imagine myself growing and my husband is not growing. What kind of relationship is that? And when you discover that you're a team, you discover that if one person alone grows, or if one person alone is achieving, one person will be left behind, and that creates an imbalance in the relationship. So I want to win. I also want you to win, and that's why we most necessarily we need to have deep, intimate, intentional conversations that border on questions like, what do you want? What do you want to be known for? How can I help you achieve the vision in your heart? Do you even have a vision to begin with? Do you understand? How can I come into play? What resources do you need? And when we talk about these things, we're not even talking about something ambiguous. You see that your wife, for example, is into project management. And then you see an article online that you know will help her. And you just say, honey, I sent you this link. Could you just look at it? I think it will help you on the project that you're handling. Or your husband is taking a project, and every time he comes back from work, you never ask him, that project that you just got 1 month ago, how is it going? My husband is an architect, for example, and every time he has a project ongoing, I am in the know. I know how he's working because in the morning I'm hearing, "Have you done this? Are you on site? Are you on that?" And when he comes back, like last week, I heard people talking about lintel, for example. Right now, I even know the architectural terms just because I wanted to know. And I'm like, okay, so have you roofed? Are you plus? You know what's going on? As that kind of thing. And they say, "We did this, we did that." Your spouse knows that you are interested. There's something, okay, take for example, another example. I traveled, I think about 2 weeks ago, to another state in Nigeria, and I had to help my husband submit his professional documents to his professional body that will help give him another type of license to practice in a certain way. Right. And I'm saying, okay, I will do that. I went there. When I went there, I didn't just go there as they just said, "We take, please." So I asked some certain questions and I discovered that part of what he submitted was not done the right way. And I had to start going for a change of name, submit. I kept bothering him. When I told him, say, "It doesn't matter," I said, "No." I said, "This lady told me this." I called him back again. I said, "You need to get this done. Wherever you are, look for it." So I didn't just, it was not just something that, okay, just do it. No, his professional progress is important to me and vice versa. And he's telling me, "Okay, what happened today? Are you going for your conference?" So we shouldn't just allow one person to just keep growing and feel like the other person should be a non-entity, because at some point you will regret it. Because very soon you will need somebody that is qualified enough to stand before kings with you, and you won't find that person. And then
True.
you now be, I mean, because when you are standing before kings, most of the time you're asking, "Where's your spouse?" And then you have a spouse who does not understand, what word do I say? The principles on how to navigate the palace, as it were. So you need your spouse to grow as the way you're growing. It's so important, like it cannot even be overemphasized. And every person or any spouse who is just investing in their own personal growth, their own personal passion, their own personal fulfillment at the expense of their spouse is slowly raising, I don't even know what word to use, but a rebel, let's put it that way. One day that person will rebel and you'll be wondering, where did this come from? No, it didn't come that day. It had been piled up.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
that's really key. You've said
Yeah,
you
no,
wanna
go on, go on. I
yeah
wanted to ask another question.
yeah. I actually wanted to say that adding to what you've said is really key, because if you're not helping your spouse to grow, if you're not helping your spouse to become the best that he or she is supposed to be, you're doing yourself a disfavor,
True.
because it's just the two of you.
That's true.
It doesn't feel right that one person is always making sacrifices, compromising for the good of the other person. And when it's time to, gain that support from you, you're not, reciprocating.
Yeah.
It's not the best. And sometimes it could make the other person feel, I'm not in it. It's all about him, or it's all about her. So I like all that you're saying. We really have to look at marriage with the eyes of, I'm here to get the best out of you.
Yeah.
Not, I am here to get the best for
For me.
myself.
Exactly.
That's like a selfish.
Thank you for that point.
Yeah. So I think now we've kind of spoken quite extensively on the signs that you feel unheard. Now the other aspect is, what do you do? If you feel unheard, you're in that situation, what do you do? And I think you started off talking about, communication, telling your spouse how you are feeling. It's really important that you explain this and maybe choose the right time. I heard you say that, choose the right place. Don't just start a conversation out of the blues. So it might be very, very important that you're thoughtful about how you start that conversation. I think that's something you touched on. So and you talked about communicating effectively. So apart from these, are there other ways that this problem can be solved?
Okay. I will just go back to some of them again. Number one is communicating effectively, because I'm sure if you say that you're unheard, it means that you feel that you're already communicating. So could it just be that you're not communicating effectively, or could it be that you're communicating ambiguously, as it were, just like Gospel said? And so you feel like, I'm not happy, or I don't feel loved, is not communicating. You think you communicated, but you didn't communicate. And then when you're not loved the way you want to, you say you're not unheard, but you were not even heard at all. Like literally, you were not heard. in the beginning. So could it be I'm not communicating properly? How am I communicating? Am I communicating in anger such that the other person just takes up a brick wall and say, you see this thing, I will do every other thing, but this one I won't do it just because of the way you communicated it? Are you communicating at the right time? So I can't be communicating, I'm not feeling low when my spouse has a deadline for the next day or a presentation for the next day. I mean, that wouldn't.
Oh, you're still there?
I think we lost
Yeah,
her
we lost
connection.
her connection.
And then do you
Okay,
have sacrosanct?
okay.
I
I
can
think
hear
she was.
you.
Okay, you're back now.
I'm here.
You're back.
I can hear
Yes.
you.
Yes, that's fine. Carry on.
Sorry about that. I can hear you. So could it be, what was I even saying? How am I communicating? Where am I? And then do you have sacrosanct times for communication, even when there is no need for communication? I know that sounds like tautology, but what I mean is that don't communicate when you need to communicate. Communicate when you don't even need to communicate. I don't know if I'm making sense. So what
Yeah.
that points to is that I know a couple that every Sunday evening you just sit down. How was the week? How did I make you feel loved? Did I make you feel unloved? Did I do anything? What can I do better? So, and then they'll just be thinking. So you're actually thinking. It's not as if there was a problem. So most of us wait for when there's a problem to address the problem. But if
Yeah.
we create a regular, system of communication, it helps to, nip these things in the bud even before they arise. And then, so after you have done all this, you've checked you're communicating properly. You've checked you're communicating at the right time. You've checked you're communicating, nicely. And then you're not still being heard. Then you know that it's time to involve a third party. And when I'm talking about a third party, I'm talking about a counselor, a trusted friend, a mentor, a mentee that both of you agree on. Very importantly, not just one person. Because if it's one person, the other person, especially for the men are not, they have a PhD in that. And when I say I'm not going with you. I don't know. I'm not going anywhere. So, but if this is how the person you guys have said, okay, these are the people that we listen to, say, can we talk to these people? And then let them do the talking, hear from a third party, and let those people help you navigate, this problem of being unheard. And then also find out how your spouse tends to assimilate communication the most effectively. For my husband, he loves anything right. In fact, you'll be shocked that my husband sends me things through PDF. He will write a memo. A memo, I'm telling you, a memo, and send it to me to PDF with captions. Like, it's so amazing. It will look like we are doing an office presentation. So he will not say, oh no, these are the issues I want. Please look at the ones highlighted. They are ones highlighted, meaning that these are very, and then he will highlight them. One day, I was somewhere, I just started laughing. Who was I laughing? I said, this is just so amazing. It looked funny, but it was important for me because when I looked at it, because that's the way he loves. So for me now, I'm now learning that when I'm talking, it doesn't really. So I write it down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and send it to him. I discovered that he looks at it, reads it, digests it. So it's better than talking, though I prefer to talk, but he prefers to read. So if I talk, it doesn't work. I go to writing and now send it to him. So find out your most effective communication channel for your spouse and then use that channel.
That is so amazing. I mean, you've unpacked a lot there. The whole writing for your husband. I know someone who, when she is so upset, and she said this was how she was able to deal with her emotions, because she can be so angry that when she is speaking to her husband, no filters. So what she would do is that she would take a pen and a paper and she would write him a letter. So that actually would get her to a point where she's actually thinking about what
Before
she
you,
would.
yeah.
Exactly. So she would write it, every single thing. This is how I feel. This is how you made me feel, and all of that. And she write as a letter and send it to him. Just having that sort of, identifying what works for both of you. It is so amazing. So amazing.
Yeah, I actually wanted to say that not just knowing what works for you. It could be that you're feeling unheard because of your past experience.
Yeah.
Maybe you've been in a relationship where you've been abused, you've been maltreated, and this man represents your past, or this woman represents your past. So you don't want to express yourself the way you need to, and in your mind you think he's the problem or she's the problem, not knowing that you have to look in the mirror and see what the problem is. So maybe we'll say one of the things you need to do is to find the root cause of the
Yeah.
sense of
Yeah.
being on, you know.
Exactly. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So I just want to say thank you so much. But it also touching on what you said about listening. So you talked about communication skills. And one of the things that I kind of took away from it is, a lot of times when we talk communication, people think it's about talking. So people spend so much time talking to somebody, and the other person is spending so much time listening to respond. You're just listening to get a catch point to respond, not necessarily that you're digesting what is being said or you're assimilating what is being said. So I think listening skill is something that a lot of people would need to do a lot of work on, especially when there's a lot of emotions and a lot of things out there. You're not happy, you're not feeling good, and listening sometimes gets shut out.
Yeah, I think what we also forgot to do is to ask our audience if they think of anything that is a sign for being unheard or feeling unheard. Maybe if you have any comment on that, you can put it on the chat. And if you think there are things spouses need to do if they feel unheard, you can just let us know. What's your view on that? And we would like to know your point or your perspective to the conversation. And
there's some comments on the chat, and I think that was when we were having the conversation around growth. Foundation for Family Affairs, he is really on point with the fact that we must be willing to grow and not stay the way we are, because a lot of times, like what Dr. Ezinne was saying earlier, people are saying this is me, this is how I've always been, and maybe just getting to the point where you open up yourself to unlearning and taking on relearning something new. And I think you also mentioned that the writing method is interesting. Yes.
Yeah, but it takes time.
It takes time.
You might not write in black and white.
For some people,
you might send a text.
Yeah,
because
a text.
now we live in that
A text, yes.
We do this sometimes. My wife and I, maybe there's a misunderstanding. And I think if we keep talking, we might be having, back and forth.
Yeah.
Sometimes it works well to take your time, send a text. Honey, I didn't like this. Anyways, I love you.
Yes. And then, very important. If I just remembered something, there was a time where I don't know which family doesn't really or never had this issue, but we're really having serious financial agitations. Let me put it, agitation is an agitation. I'm telling you, I don't even want to call it. I'm like, please, the country, I don't understand. Like, this is not, I don't know what is going on here. So I discovered that after some time, my husband, like I told you, he's a writer. Like when he talks about, he sends me another PDF. He sent me a breakdown. I've never seen a thing like that. Excel, a breakdown. Salary, housing, feeding, this, that, 5 years, save this one. This is my plan. Can you fit into this plan, please? And just said, can we work around what we have so that we can do this and this? After I finished reading those things, I even began to feel bad. What am I saying? So I didn't have the correct perspective. I was just ranting. So I was feeling unheard, but I did not have the full perspective. So, but when and no matter what he said, it wouldn't have given me the full perspective, like when he broke that down and said, this is this. Can we tone down on this and get this just because of this future goal? I'm not just trying to herd money here. There is a goal we are getting to. So look at the goal. Then we can now adjust our present, fundings, to fit what we can do presently so that we can achieve this goal. And when I looked at it, I even started feeling bad. I had to even go and apologize, right? But what am I saying? I would have still been, I just felt like there was a money somewhere that was not coming out. Do you get? So
I mean,
Yeah.
what you said
It's
now
ridiculous.
is so profound. It's so profound because
Yeah,
in a lot of relationships,
that's
like
the issue.
this is the big elephant in the room, and the fact
oh my
that
God.
people don't even know that this is a skill that they have to learn. Budgeting. You know, just that could take off a lot. Like you said, it gave you perspective. You know, you were able to see that, wow, you know, you were agitated without perspective. And
Yes.
sometimes, you know, if we can just sit down together and do a little bit, commit to doing some budgeting, that would help take away some unnecessary expenses, some burden on the relationship. And I mean,
Yeah,
there was something else you said that I
not
forgot.
just budgeting. I think some of the issues that we have in relationships is I will say are because we've not taken time to talk about them, reflective conversation. Where you sit down, I sit down. We've been having this back and forth. Let's look at the reasons. What are the reasons we are doing this? You point it out, both of you. And it's not when the issue is ongoing that you start doing that. It is, let's say you've had a conversation, you've had a disagreement yesterday, everyone is happy, everyone is fine. Now, can we go back and understand why every time we get to this point on this issue, there will always be a misunderstanding? What is the reason? In a very objective way, you point out the reasons. Now, these are the reasons. How can we
Navigate it?
say your view, I say my view.
Yeah.
How can we navigate it? And I also want to say that your husband gave you that opportunity to see. Some men think about what they want to do and they don't communicate. So the woman feels unheard and he's thinking of the solution to her problem. But he's not telling her, this is what I'm planning. Which is why you must work as a team and you have to communicate all the time.
Yeah, I mean, one of the people online, I mean, Foundation for Family Affairs says, you know, when one spouse avoids having tough conversations, it could lead to the other person feeling unheard. And it kind of echoes what you were saying, you know, earlier. But another thing that sort of came to mind, you know, as we were talking about this, is the fact that it would so amaze you and surprise you how many marriages don't have a vision. You see, the thing is that in itself, there is no sense of direction. There is no sense of this is where we are going, and this is why our marriage, our union exists. You know, a lot of times we talk about these things and people feel like, oh, you guys are talking about these things. You're making it so serious. You're making it so, you know, like it's so systematic and all of that. The thing is, if you are in a relationship and you're not communicating the vision to me and you're doing something else, I would feel unheard because I don't even understand why is he going on about this? Why is he doing this? Or why is she doing this? Because it's really important that we both come to a point where we have a unified front in terms of how do we drive our marriage forward and what is the purpose of us being together.
Wow,
that's
so profound. Yes. I mean, every time, you know, you guys say something, it just, I mean, it's so profound because, I mean, if we want to look at the scriptures, it says something very interesting. And it says that you should write the vision, right? You should make it plain that he may run that readeth it, meaning that the person that does not read it does not even have the capacity to run, even though the person wants to run. So if you have a vision and you don't share with your wife or your husband, and that person cannot read it, no matter how willing the person wants to run with you, by not just exposing her to the vision, the person does not have the capacity to run with it. He says that he may run that readeth it. It's amazing. So if I don't know the vision, I can't run with you. So it means that I will be either I'll be dragging you back, or I keep you stagnant, or keep the family stagnant, or you don't go as far as you should go because you're not running with your covenant partner. And that is why it's so important to say, this is our 5-year plan. This is our vision as a family. When we get married, okay, we want to have our children. We don't want to have, if for those who are staying in Nigeria, we don't want to have our children in Nigeria. That is a vision. It's a vision. So if you don't want to have your children in Nigeria, there's some expenses you can make in Nigeria. There are some comforts you are going to have to, you know, forfeit because you have a goal. or you want to buy a house, this kind of things, or a family wakes up and says, okay, we want to relocate. I mean, that's not the time you want to start renovating your house. You see what I mean? So that's why writing the vision, making it plain so that everybody that is reading it will run with it is so important. I just feel like the Bible is so complete.
Yeah, that's amazing. I think we can go on and on and on talking about some of these things. And from what you've said, one of the key things that anyone listening to us needs to do is to don't just say, I feel unheard. Have a conversation with your spouse. Call his or her attention to the fact that there are things you're saying he or she may not be listening. Maybe you've tried it before, it has not worked. Create a different setting, different ambience. If you take your spouse out, for instance, in a very wonderful environment to eat, and in the course of doing that, you raise this issue, it might be a good opportunity to have that conversation. And obviously, you need to look inwardly to see your contribution to the sense of not being heard or your voice not being recognized in your marriage. And like you said, marriage is a teamwork. For us to be successful, we must work together. Can two work together except they agree? No. So there has to be compatibility or unified vision, agreement in terms of where we are going, not just in that sense, even in our finance, in everything we do, we must work as one. That's the point we just want to put across to everyone listening to us. So, Ezinne, do you have a final word before we call it an after it?
Ironically, what I have is a final question.
Okay.
Not a final word.
You want to ask us
while you were talking, I just a picture just crossed my mind where there are some times where we can't seem to get to a common ground in relationships about a particular issue. This one is this way, this one is that way, and you're like, no, we want to do. So how do you now? I know that I'm the one that's on the call, but I'm throwing it out, So how do we now, come to that ground where we say, we both have now, we are both here, like we both feel heard, and we have made this without one person feeling like, it is like you are the one that had the final say. I don't know if you get what I mean. I didn't have a say. So is it possible, of course, that you would not always have the final say? You will have a say, but not always have the final say. And then is there any specific gender that should always have the final say?
I think before I answer what I feel or what my view on it, I will also put the question down to our audience. Do you guys think if there are issues that, let's say there's a decision to be made and everyone feels unheard, this one wants to go A, the other one wants to go B, who should call the shots? Should we call it together? What can we do? Just put your answer in the comment section if you have one. From my own point of view, I think my approach to this is we must have an agreement before we decide, because I should not dominate the decision-making process. It's a teamwork. Even in the office, if you're working as a team and there's a project to be handled, ask everyone to bring their contribution or their views. At the end of the day, the superior view will take the day.
It might not even be a superior view. It could be a combination. It could be a combination, because a lot of times when we work on projects at work, so it's not about, this person had the idea or that person had the idea. It could be just maybe one idea from that person and one idea, and then we fuse it together and
form what works for everyone. But at a point where you're not making a headway, what I will say is leave the decision, reflect on it, and come back to it. Because if you take that decision without the consent of the other person, it's more like
so you don't need their consent. Because when we talk
I use the word consent without the support or the agreement of the other person, then it means you're not carrying everyone along, because that decision will impact on both of you. Let me give you an instance. Let's say I want to relocate to the US. That's what I want. Maybe because I got a job there. And my wife is saying, I'm not in it. Should I go ahead? No. What I need to do is to convince her. If she's not convinced, then I don't have to go.
Yeah. I think that kind of echoes what Thelma has just put on the chat, because she's saying if we have a different or have different perspectives, we can bring our ideas and find a common ground so no one feels marginalized.
Exactly.
And just talking about this as well, because a lot of times relationship requires a lot of skill and working together, because we talk about these things, but there might be instances where decisions have to be made quick, and somebody needs to call that shot.
Exactly.
But I might say constantly do a health check on your relationship. A lot of times people could sit down and also do some simple assessments of their relationship. What's our relationship feeling like? Where are we at in terms of our relationship? And maybe that can also be something that.
But the other question is, who should call the shots? Is it the man that should always call the shots? Is it the woman? For me, I think anyone who has, it's not gender specific, anyone who has more I don't want to use superior.
It could be me.
For instance,
dexterity
around,
in that
anyone
field
who has more competence
in
that area should call the shot.
Exactly.
For instance, if we are looking at financial issues and my wife is more competent when it has to do with managing finance, doing all of those, she should call the shot. There is nothing wrong with that, as long as the shot is
good for
everyone. She should take that.
It's like somebody married to an estate manager and the person wants to call the shot on the part of town where they should buy a house. That kind of thing. And I mean, why would I be stressing my life when I have somebody who has the wisdom, to do that?
That's why I said earlier superior argument, because when we put all the facts on the table, it's going to be glaring to everyone that this is what we need to do together. You get my point? You want to buy a house.
And you have to be open.
Yes, you want to buy a house and you know that you're paying rent heavily. And the man is saying, I want to buy the latest car. And she's telling you, if we keep renting, you buy this car, the value of the car is going to depreciate after you bought it. The house we don't have, we'll keep spending this amount of money. Over 10 years, we are spending millions on rent. Can we buy a house because this, that? She has a superior argument, so you have to give up and agree with her. That's the way I will approach it.
Awesome.
Yeah. So I don't know if you have any final word, because that was a question. So, but I would want to say, whilst you're thinking on that, I want to say thank you to everyone who came in to this conversation today. I know that it's a Saturday and people have their plans all laid out. So thank you for chiming into this conversation. And just enjoying this conversation we've had with our guests today.
I've really
I have, and I've learned quite a lot, just talking today. So I don't know if you have a final word for us before we close. Yes.
Okay, my final word is that a lot of us, including me, have underrated this value called kindness, right? So every time you say, what do you want in a spouse? I want him to be peaceful. I want him to be loving. And we just really downplay kindness. And it's such a powerful virtue, such a powerful value. And if you exhibit this value called kindness, you would see the necessity to listen to your spouse, to hear your spouse, and to do something about what your spouse has told you. So as we leave this call, I want you to make a commitment to lean more into the virtue called kindness as it regards communicating with your spouse, and see your relationship take a new level. That's my final word.
Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. Thank you very much for that.
Yeah. Thank you so much for that. And thank you to all of our...
Thank you, everyone.
Do you want to say something?
Yeah, I actually wanted to say it's been an amazing
conversation
opportunity having you on our platform. The other video I posted, some of the clips, I just thought about the things you said last time around intimacy in marriage. And you've always been available to share your experience, your knowledge, and being open. So thank you very much. We don't take it lightly. Thank you.
so much. Thank you so much,
Yeah.
Gospel and Appeal.
So thank you so much. And please, if you are new on our channel, maybe you got carried away by this conversation and you're like, oh, this is so interesting, and you forgot to hit the subscribe button, now is the time to do it. Please go ahead, hit the subscribe button, and welcome to the family. And to all our returning subscribers and every single one of you that joined the conversation today, thank you so much. And just to let you know, our hosts, our guests today, there's been a lot of show of love for you, and a lot of people appreciate you coming, and they're so happy that you were here. So thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. You're most welcome. So until the next episode, until the next time we see you, it's goodbye from us. Have a lovely afternoon.
Bye-bye.